Modern cosmology is highly mathematical.
We see stellar and galactic formations shaped by magnetic fields.
This is Notre Dame in Paris, one of the most famous sights in the city. But I'm not here for the view from the top or for the flying buttresses or even for religion. I'm here for something just outside it. If you look down from the top and stand just outside the main entrance, you will find a marker on the floor called Point Zero. Point Zero is the place from which all distances in France are measured from. France isn't the only country with a point zero. A lot of countries in the developed world have them. There'll be a marker or a monument somewhere in the capital city that says this is where the numbering starts from. The UK though? No, we don't have one, neither does the US. I mean, the UK does have Charing Cross in London, but only some roads are measured from there. And the US, well, you do have a marker in Washington DC, but, well, no one uses it for anything. Most US states restart their numbering when a road enters their territory. And here in Paris, though, you have a marker that isn't really used anymore in these days of GPS and satellites, but what you have is a relic of a past time, a marker that simply says, this is where we started from. This is back when we had all the triangulation and manual calculations needed to actually map something, back when it was longhand. This is where it all began. That's Point Zero, and that is something you might not have known.
If we move the line over here where the real component of S is 0, then this is a special case where we will be generating the waveform out of sine waves, as in the case of a Fourier transform.
Ptolemy placed the prime meridian along what he called the Fortunate Isles, somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. The point was to place it west of the known world, since negative numbers were not yet in use. This notion stuck around for the next 1500 years, with multiple Atlantic meridians used by cartographers. But eventually, empires happened. Thus, many prime meridians used in the modern era passed through major cities, including, but not limited to, Washington DC, Philadelphia, Lisbon, Madrid, London, Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, Florence, Rome, Copenhagen, Alexandria, Jerusalem, Mecca, and Kyoto. So in October 1884, the International Meridian Conference took place. Of the 25 countries present, 22 voted in favour of adopting the Greenwich Meridian internationally. 2 countries abstained from voting, including France, who continued to use the Paris Meridian for almost 3 more decades.
What we know as the history of civilization is only a very small part of our past. There is something extraordinary about our beginnings not written about in history books. The oldest surviving temples encode an understanding of Earth, Moon, and Sun that is in some ways more advanced than modern science. To catch up with ancient knowledge, a broad interdisciplinary approach is clearly indicated. Specialists in art history, archaeology, architecture, philosophy, semiotics, mathematics, physics, and many others will need to cooperate in new ways. By seriously studying Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid, we've seen how people living at the dawn of civilization possess the ability to accurately measure the size of the Earth and to survey long distances with a precision rivaling GPS satellites. Logically, our civilization must therefore be a legacy from an earlier civilization. Whether this was Atlantis and/or an off-world civilization, I cannot presently say with certainty. The rediscovery of the importance of number, geometry, music, and astronomy should rekindle interest in ancient Egyptian knowledge passed down to us by philosophers such as Pythagoras and Plato. Understanding how the macrocosm and microcosm are related through the art of sacred geometry, in the act of measuring structures and the earth, is a thing of profound beauty. Relating 6s to 5s by drawing hexagons and pentagons in the landscape, or by measuring with Egyptian units, are brilliant examples of this ancient science at work. Finding Pythagorean triangles, 5 by 12 rectangles, pyramids, octograms, enneagrams, and zodiacs encoded in much of the world's great architecture and urban design exposes an obsession with ancient symbolism spanning the centuries. If the designers take this symbolism so seriously, then there must really be power in ancient knowledge.
The rise of science was a triumph over mythology, over magic and superstition. That's why the word science today implies reliability. The word myth means fiction, not true. And it turns out that the key to understanding the myths is the same key that is now helping us to understand objects in deep space. To understand the workings of the physical universe.
Which are also used to harness energies, like giant batteries. Many of these sections where two or more ley lines intersect are marked with obelisks, such as Washington, D.C. Monument, Vatican Courtyard, and Cleopatra's Needle in Central Park. These electromagnetic lines of the Earth are its veins, and receive its energies from the Sun that connects and affects every living thing on this planet. We are electrical, and our atoms surrounded by electrons. Electricity.
So Kabbalah spoke about concepts that were literally not just centuries, but even millennia ahead of time. So for example, the Zohar, 2,000 years ago, which is 1,500 years before Columbus, the Zohar spoke about a round earth. To quote, "The whole world rolls around like a ball, so that some people are above and some are below." The Zohar said 2,000 years ago that true reality exists in 10 dimensions. Can you imagine? We just learned about dimensions in this century, that there's other dimensions we can't see. So Kabbalah said true reality exists actually in 10 dimensions. Now why is that important? They said if you look around with your 5 senses, we only detect 1% of true reality. The remaining 99% is hidden, says Kabbalah.
Circular phenomena, that the primary colors were red, green, and violet. And if you've ever looked down the throat of a projector TV, you know that that's exactly the colors that are being projected, that you can make every other color of the rainbow, including flesh tones, with those 3 basic primary colors. Most people think that red, blue, and yellow are the primaries, but these are pigments.
Pigmentary, right.
This is actual light.
True spectral
light. When you take a red light and you shine it on a white area, and you take a green light and shine it on an area, in the place where those 2 lights blend, you get yellow. So yellow is a secondary color. If you shine green light in one area and violet light next to it, in the area where they blend, you get blue. And if you take red light in one area and violet light in another area, the area where they blend, you get magenta. So that yellow, blue, and magenta are the basic secondary colors.
Right.
Throughout this video, the color signifies the phase of a function.
The information regarding natural law is occulted knowledge. It is knowledge that has been hidden from humanity. Okay? It's held by the few, which is represented here at the top of this pyramid. You can look at this as a pyramid representing knowledge or ignorance. At the top of the pyramid, you have knowledge. It's the higher you go in the pyramid, the more knowledge. Okay? But the pyramid tapers because at the top, very few people understand that information. So please, as you go through this seminar, please keep in mind, if I ever use the term occult, all I'm talking about here is hidden knowledge. That's what it means. Occulted knowledge is hidden. Now, why would anybody want to hide knowledge that is extremely important? Well, there's a very specific reason. So this is the spiritual domain, the laws that actually are operating in the unseen realm. Okay, now, they manifest in the physical realm. We're going to talk about that. Okay, because that's the operation that it trickles down from. It starts in the spiritual domain, and then it manifests in the physical domain. That's why it's not the exoteric. It's not given to the masses. It's the esoteric. It is reserved for the few. And there's a reason for that. It's been deliberately hidden away and kept from the general public in order to create and maintain a power differential. Because if someone else is an extreme level of knowledge, they know how something works, like something as trivial as how human consciousness works, how human motivations work, how human perceptions work, how human beings can be manipulated. The knowledge of natural law and its operations constitutes what I call the most deeply occulted or hidden information that exists on this planet. You will not find any more hidden information. This is the thing that all the distractions are there for, to keep you from learning. The endless trivialities, the nonsense you hear on the news, all the video games, all the nonsense television, the sports, you know, it's all there to keep people from understanding this.
Chess is a game of calculated strategy, and since the board is geometrical, the moves are mathematical. Checkmate, and the game is over.